a champion, but nobody's willing to put in the work that it takes to do it. Everybody wants the prize, but nobody loves the process. I love the process. I love working for what I want. I love the process. I love working for what I want.
Welcome back to Now I Haven't Made It Yet. This is episode 4. I am Jasmine Sims. And to those of you who have come alongside me on this journey, hopefully you have received some strength and some inspiration for your own adventure. And we all know that sometimes the journey is as equally important as the destination. And we don't want to arrive ill-prepared and too early, or too late and poorly equipped. It is better that we arrive when we are ready, and prayerfully we will arrive as ourselves and not as someone who is trying to be different or forcing themselves to stand out. Sometimes the goal becomes remaining true to yourself. So let's dive right in. The word of the day is foreshadowing. And what it means to foreshadow is to warn or indicate a future event. And you see this a lot of times in movies. Some books that I've read, they use this element of foreshadowing. And I love when I see this. Normally it takes me a minute. Like halfway through the movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, they hinted to this either in the original first film or earlier scenes, and I love this. And it's also interesting to think about how you can even see this foreshadowing element or device in your own life. You know, just thinking about when I was younger, and I would tell stories or do my own thing, or I was super creative with words, and my parents would tell me all these stories and stuff like that. And to a degree, I believe that that was a foreshadow to my future and how much I love words. And that's just something that I want to do for the rest of my life, if I can. And I also think that it can also be encouraging to people. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying how they've been training and preparing themselves to do one thing. And now it looks like the road is kind of shifting, and they may have to venture out and do something else. And the thing is, but I've been training for this. And I'm like, but what if you just thought that that training was preparing you for that thing? But in reality, all of that training was for something else. I don't know how that connects with foreshadowing, but still a very valid point, how things can point to and signify different things in your life, and sometimes we miss it and we think that it's for something else, but it's like, no, that was a foreshadow for something greater, something that you did not even imagine. So keep your eye out as you live your life, as you make choices, as you go on this journey. Look for indicators that there's something else out there further up the road for you. So yeah, foreshadowing, a warning, an indication, a signifying of a future event. Today's Artisit Spotlight is a Milwaukee native. He's a fellow poet. I had the privilege of performing with him this past August in California for P4CM's Rhetoric. I met him years ago. I don't even know. When I performed at Reverb every year in February. He's super dope, super genuine guy, newly married. And he just released a spoken word piece called Men Talk. And his name is Cedric Hoard. And you need to be acquainted with him and his work, because he does far more than poetry. He's a very needed voice as far as counseling and mental health goes. So definitely become acquainted with him. I will give all of his information in the notes in the comment section, all of that. This particular spoken word piece called Men Talk, he covers a taboo topic of infidelity, cheating, whatever you want to call it. And it's very refreshing and honestly encouraging to hear a man address this issue. As a woman and talking to other women, the amount of married men, engaged men, committed men who just approach you with no shame, not trying to hide their marriage. It's infuriating. It's heartbreaking. So I'm going to play a little bit of this spoken word piece for you guys, and I will definitely leave the link. And I have known Cedric for many years, and it's just really, really dope and phenomenal to see the growth in his writing, his performance, his delivery. I mean, it has truly just been a joy to witness. And if you don't know me by now, you know that I'm all about the person behind that microphone. And what I know of him is that he is genuine and he is hardworking. And it has truly been a pleasure just seeing his progress and him tackle these issues, because he has other poems that are definitely needed. This might be one of my favorite poems. So here's a little bit of it, and thank me later.
For insecurity, he wants to cover up. He learned to just drown himself in pleasure if he felt like emotions were ever coming up. Now a strong woman is all broken up because he was taught that strong men can never open up. Infidelity only seems like an option because he don't want to confess that he feels inadequate. And if he were to confess it, then who would be his advocate? Yet acknowledgement is the first step right before addicts quit.
There's so much pressure to be a cupcake in a world of muffins. But what if you are a muffin? Does that mean that you are settling or that you're failing? Or does it mean that you're a muffin and that's what you're going to be? Personally, I like muffins. But thankfully, we are a vast population of complex, beautiful, and diverse people. And sometimes being yourself is going to have to be enough. The last episode, I spoke about recreating the wheel. But what if the wheel is what works for you? And if the wheel is for you, then don't stress yourself trying to be something that isn't for you. We can begin to believe that we know what people want and we know what works. And so we reshape our methods and the way we do things to fit into this mold. And I'll admit that being who you are won't fit in certain molds. And that's okay. It's okay to bend that mold and make it work for you. As a poet, I see people who change their voice and the way they naturally are. And I understand that these things are sometimes necessary for certain performances, but we are not referring to that. I'm referring to this idea that poetry is done a certain way. And we think I have to sound this way and more like this on the stage in order to be good or in order to be noticed. And seeing someone who is simply themselves is one of the most refreshing things to me. It's always funny to me that when people strive so hard to be different that they sometimes fall right back into the crowd. The ones that tend to be different are usually just themselves, without concern for popularity or trends or putting forth effort to be different. I was in a conversation not too long ago and we were discussing this concept of leaving a legacy and how that becomes the goal. You know, it's leave a legacy, what's going to be here after you leave, and all of these things. And I come to disagree with that concept. Leaving a legacy is not a goal of mine. My goal is to live out what I'm called to do. And if a legacy is a byproduct of that, then hey, awesome. But even if it isn't, I have done what I was created to do, and the lives I touch are enough. And anything that happens when I am no longer here is not in my control. My father was an amazing man. He left a legacy. But while he was here on earth, his focus was loving God and loving others. His legacy simply happened out of him living his life completely. And with everything that he was given, he lived his life, and a legacy simply happened. So don't let your future legacy distract you from your current mission. Don't let being different distract you from being yourself. Because disliking common things doesn't make you interesting. And liking common things doesn't make you boring or bland. Be who you are in all of its uniqueness, all of its mundaneness. Is that a word? I think you get the point. Be who you are. And if who you are sometimes goes with the crowd, cool. If being who you are sometimes does not go with the crowd, cool. But make sure you're doing things out of, well, I can't tell you what to do, but I'm going to make sure that I'm doing things because I'm supposed to be doing them. I love them. I'm not going to deny myself an opportunity because everybody else is doing it and I have to be different. If I want to do it and everybody else is doing it, cool. We all gonna have fun, do it together. That's fine. I think part of this push to be unique and stand out comes from the fear of being unnoticed. And the fact is you're not like anybody else. Twins aren't even fully alike. If we are able to embrace ourselves and live without fear of judgment, the pressure to be unique might lose some of its weight and we'll still discover that we are unique. And waiting for people to stop judging is so unrealistic, and their words cannot change anything. Sometimes being who you are starts with small things, as small as how we decide to wear our clothes or our hair. If I'm wearing something and you don't like it, trust me, if I didn't ask you your opinion, chances are I'm not interested in it. I won't ask because I don't want it to affect my decision. Sometimes it won't matter if you give it unsolicited anyway. I'm striving to be me. There has to be enough, and that has to be enough, because anything else will have me exhausted, will have me too exhausted to do what I'm put on this planet to do. And the goal is to remain yourself throughout the journey. I mean, we change, we grow, we mature, we develop, but I'm not asking, does this fit my brand? Who I am will have to be my brand and all of the changes that come along with it. I often hear you look like an artist, or artists always do this. Sometimes it's true and sometimes it isn't. I also tend to hear that I'm not an artist because I don't insert whatever it is an artist is supposed to look like or do. But creatives are not creatives because we dress odd or we speak differently. And at times, we do those things. And sometimes we are weird, and that's cool. And yeah, these things might often define us, but that isn't what makes us creative or artsy. And that isn't what a person is missing in order to be creative. Forget the blueprint and be you and do what you love and what you're called to do. Because we can lose ourselves and our purpose trying to be different and leaving a legacy to fit in this picture that we've conjured up. And you're enough. So in the words of Dr. Seuss, be who you are and say what you feel. Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter won't mind. Side note, say how you feel when necessary to who is necessary, and be who you are. Please do not neglect growth. Do not neglect development in the process. Because we're all on this whole thing about standing out and being unique and being different. But if you have to sacrifice being who the Lord has designed and created you to be in order to stand out and be unique, you really have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Because who you are is intentional. It's by design. And as much as your callings and your purpose is needed, who you are is equally as needed. Because there are people here who are living their lives in metaphorical straitjackets. And seeing someone who is going to be who themselves can be liberating to that person. And it also will bring you a peace in your conscience to know that you're not living this life with a mask on and not living the charade, and you're just genuinely who you are. We're humans, we're broken, we're jacked up, but we all have a purpose. We all have gifts and we all have talents, and we are all on a journey somewhere. So peace in the storm and joy on the journey. Safe travels. Wherever you are headed, bring yourself along. See you next time.
Everybody wants to be a champion, but nobody is willing to put in the work that it takes to do it. Everybody wants to prize, but nobody loves the process. I love the process. I love working for what I want. I love the process. I love working for what I want.